Like a backstage pass to the world of fly fishing travel, this is Waypoints, the podcast of destination angling. News and events, helpful travel tips, destination profiles, great stories, and expert advice from some of the most seasoned and experienced names in fishing travel. Waypoints is brought to you by Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures, the industry's #1 specialty travel company for the very best insider knowledge, logistical support, and trip preparation. Freshwater or saltwater, international or domestic, Yellow Dog has you covered for your next fishing adventure. And now, your Waypoints host, Yellow Dog founder and director, Jim Klug.
I'm joined today by Cheryl Bastian, the owner and managing director of Swains Cay Lodge on Andros Island in the Bahamas. With an ideal location near the settlement of Mangrove Cay in the central southern region of Andros, Swains is one of the most well-known and successful fishing lodges found anywhere in the Bahamas. The opening of the lodge in 2009 was a dream come true for Cheryl, and she decided early on that this 100% Bahamian-owned and operated lodge would set the standard on Andros for hospitality, service, and professionalism. Prior to opening Swains Cay Lodge, Cheryl had a 30-plus year career in the Bahamian financial services industry, which provided a valuable experience for the time when she would be running her own successful business and for building customer relationships with anglers from throughout the world. Cheryl's dedication to setting the standard for lodge operations within the Bahamian sport fishing industry led to her involvement with the Bahamas Out Island Promotion Board, an organization dedicated to promoting tourism to out islands, including Andros, Eleuthera, Exuma, Bimini, Abaco, and others. Cheryl has been a vocal advocate for improving infrastructure in the out islands, and she has served as past president and treasurer for the board. If you've ever been to one of the national fly fishing consumer shows during the winter season and stopped by the Bahamas promotional booth, chances are good you've talked with Cheryl, as she is a tireless advocate for fishing and tourism all throughout the Bahamas. Cheryl, welcome to Waypoints, and thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Jim. Thank you for inviting me to the Waypoint.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. We've been friends for a lot of years. We've worked together for a lot of years. But I thought it would be so fun to sit down and hear about your story as a lodge owner in the Bahamas, about your operation, about your fishery. I want to start off by learning a little bit more about you, however, kind of where you grew up, where you went to school, what set you on the path to your current occupation, being a lodge owner on Andros. How did it all begin?
Yes. Jim, thank you for inviting me. I'm always excited to talk about myself, my friends say, and definitely about Swains Cay Lodge and my journey there. So, a Bahamian by birth, lived in Nassau all my life, went to, one of the best local colleges, and after that, marriage, and got into the private banking industry, which I loved. It's taught me so much. I've been, travel around the world, and exposure and experience has been wonderful. In fact, it's been one of the pathways to my profession right now as a hotelier running a fly fishing lodge. But it started with me just visiting Andros with a friend to see their father's place. We were dating, and I've always had this dream, believe it or not, about having a place in the Bahamas somewhere, because I've always been so proud. I've been an ambassador, even in my private banking experience, relationship with my, millionaires and billionaire clients in selling the Bahamas. And so going there, and that was some 20 more years ago, almost 25 years ago. And it was, so rustic, so beautiful. And everyone went back home after there was the holiday weekend, and we decided to stay over one night, and everything had been eaten out of the fridge. And we would say, okay, let's go and find something to eat. Couldn't find anything to eat. Back then, there were no restaurants, not at all.
And were you in the Mangrove Cay area? Is that where you were staying?
This is in Mangrove Cay, specifically in Andros. Mangrove Cay. Yeah. It's in the middle of Andros, between the two bites, Middle Bite and South Bite. And having grown up as a child, loving to fish, line fish, the beach, I'd get a whipping all the time because I'd be lost in the water, climbing trees, everything else. It just reminded me of back then. And so it was like love at first sight. And we finally were able to find a little restaurant, two properties down from where Swains Cay Lodge is. And I looked back and said, what a beautiful, beautiful spot. Wow, I wish I could get me one, because I had been looking around the country for, something quaint and beautiful. And here it is in Andros. Didn't think about Andros, with the flats and et cetera, so many flats. We're looking at those, luscious white, long beaches. But we do have a beautiful beach. So in speaking with them, I found out someone wanted to sell some property. And when they showed me the property, love at first sight.
That was it. You were ruined.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty funny. I mean, obviously, you talked about being a hotelier, but what specifically, I guess even initially, attracted you to the fishing lodge business? I mean, you found your slice of paradise right there in the middle of Andros, a beautiful beach, a great location, and a lot that was available. At what point did you think, you know what, this would be a great place for a fishing lodge? I think I'm going to just jump right in.
Initially I was lost. It's just that I had to have it and I loved it. And the fact that my friend had decided to perhaps get married and this was his father's birthplace, maybe what could I do? And I was actually thinking of a bed and breakfast, something rustic at first. And then after scouting around, talking around, I said, you know what? I just had the vision. It just came to me, you know what? And reading, fly fishing, fishing in some form. The fly fishing part then evolved. And after speaking with a few guides, and they were saying, hey, why don't you do something like that? Because, we have to travel all the way North Andros or South Andros where most of their fishing was done. They had started with another lodge that's located on the island, but they'd all broken off as independent guides. And so that's when it came to my head, this might be interesting and profitable. But I actually went into it just because I like to take on challenges. And at that point in my life with the private banking world, I was getting discouraged. The bank had sold to another bank, and I wasn't pleased with how they were managing and, my client relationship, etc. And so I got disinterested and said, I'm working really hard with this bank, profits. And even though it was for me, it was a great experience. What can I do for Cheryl? What can I do for my country? And I remembered how hard my parents worked. They were working at one of the largest hotels in Nassau, worked really, really hard. My mom had bunions on her feet, and my dad was hustling all about, And I said, I'm going to give back. They really sacrificed to send me to school and educate me. I'm going to give back to them. I think this is going to be something good that I can let them relax and enjoy their golden years when I have, come behind them and work hard to achieve something.
That's great. Well, when you started off initially maybe with a bed and breakfast idea, and then it kind of grew into a fishing lodge idea, were you aware at that time of kind of the historical significance of Andros? I mean, there's so much fly fishing history on Andros, going way back to Charlie Smith and, the Crazy Charlie bonefish years, the Bang Bang Club. I mean, so much of what we know of, kind of flats fishing today in the Bahamas originated on Andros. So a ton of history.
No, it's just, it just evolved. But I was so interested in doing it and getting it right. And, one of my first statements was, when I decided it was going to be a fly fishing lodge, this is going to be one of the best. And so I started studying. I had the opportunity to meet Crazy Charlie. That's what they call him, Charlie Smith, and go to his place. And he spoke to me about what went on. And so I just kept gathering information and reading and started, flying north, flying south, learning more. And I got more and more excited as I went on. And that's why we're here today. It just excited me. And one of the interesting things is that, Andros, its flavor and history and heritage is from the Seminole Indians, Africans, and European adventurers. And I studied that. And my mom is descended from a Seminole Indian. In fact, they went across the United States down the Gulf and canoed down to North Andros, Red Bays. And so my great-grandfather and his ancestors, that's where. And I think I often tell my guests in jest that, when I came there, my ancestors recognized me right away and they grasped me because of my love and drive and devotion. It was unreal.
Well, there is so much history on Andros. It is an incredible place in the Bahamas.
I often speak with my guests in the evening because I'm very hands-on about the history of Andros, about my Seminole Indian descendant, and they find it very interesting, especially when I talk about the Chick Chinese, and I make it seem real. I had some guys think it was real.
Chick That's right. That's right. Well, let me ask you another question. So you've been going... moving forward, it's been about 16 years since you started the lodge. Tell us about some of the challenges you faced in the early days of project development, launching the business, kind of the very beginning when the lodge first opened. I mean, there's a great book by Herman Houck called Don't Stop the Carnival. I think it should be required reading for anyone who owns or operates a lodge anywhere in the Caribbean. It's a great story of a New Yorker that moved down, fell in love with paradise, bought a small hotel on a Caribbean island. And then the book just talks about this whole series of challenges and nightmares and hilarious stories. But I'm sure as a lodge owner that, started from the ground up, you probably had some initial challenges in starting the lodge.
I know some people thought I was crazy. I had one or two winter residents in my group. They're like, "Are you serious? No, you had better change that plan." And I had a lot of people saying, "This is just not going to work. It's not going to do." The challenges were that I had made in my mind, this is my dream and this is my goal. And so I had some serious financial challenges, number one. But being a private banker of 30 years, I kind of put my magic on it and got the financial support that I needed.
There was probably nothing that would have prepared you more than having that financial background. Yes. You knew how it worked, who to call, how to set it up.
Exactly. And when I, like I said, after 30 years, I'm not so much wanting material things, but I had saved some things and developed a pretty good life in Nassau. So I had that to bring to the table, and the bank actually liked the idea. I think they liked the drive and the spirit that I put into it. I ran around to different government ministers, whenever there was something that wasn't moving. I would wait outside if they were giving a talk or a presentation and meet them at the car, get someone to connect. It was really, really difficult. But I was just not going to give up. And that's how I am with most things in my life. Dealing with getting freight in, dealing with getting food in, building material. We had 3 contractors working on there that just irresponsible persons who you send to the island and they're partying down. When someone said, "You better get over here," they're partying down on this property, and that's it. So really had to put close attention. I was flying back and forth from Nassau, trying to keep my current job at that time to pay some of the expenses and continue with the salary level that I had to make it work. And so everything was going. I was pouring everything into it. Let's put it this way. I probably paid for the place twice. But do I care? Hey, have you ever seen anyone with an armored car behind their hearse, going? You can't take it anywhere. Although it was a little bit irresponsible. I looked at all the challenges and I said, after I've gone through all of this, I'm just going to make this work. And that's what I did. I hired the right staff. And then I appealed to the guides there. And when I found out what excellent guides were there, I spoke with some of the top guides and I said, "Listen, be a partner with me. And I don't want you to take anyone's client. We're going to bill it. But, I need your advice and I need your support." And they were happy because, as I mentioned earlier, they were driving north and they were driving south to work. They weren't working with just 1 or 2 lodges there. They were with a larger lodge, but they were no longer working with them in a big way. And so they were so happy. And that really helped. The fact that they embraced working with me, and we went from there. That's been big for us.
Well, I was going to ask you about that next because obviously having local community support when you launched the project was important, but the guide team at a fishing lodge is everything. You have to have legitimate experienced guides, and you didn't bring in new guides or train guides that had never bonefished before as you started the lodge. You went out to the veteran guides that were already living in the community, and as you said, you partnered with those guides to provide the fishing services for your clients. Today, you have one of the most incredible guide teams that work out of your lodge. I mean, incredible people. How was that in the beginning when you kind of first went to the guides, you shared your vision with them, the idea, were they immediately receptive to it, or did it take a little time to kind of build up that relationship and that trust level?
I think they were a little skeptical. It's not common for a Bahamian and a woman to have a lodge of the level that we have. And so for them, they didn't know me, although I think I made a good first impression. But starting to work with the top guys like Marvin and Shine and Patterson and Alvin and a few others, and the word spread, and then all of a sudden all the guys were coming, we want to work with you. And I that made me feel really good. As Ian Davis, your colleague, told me initially when I started working with Yellow Dog, you're only as good as your guides. And so I knew that one of the most important things that I had to do was develop a good relationship with them. I heard about the cries with other lodges and situations between guides, and I just thought in terms of working with my guides, you have to be a strong partner, a supporter of those guides, okay, a friend to those guides, financially with those guides, and that's exactly what I did. Guides that, they needed a part for their boat or they didn't have the funds. They needed to be paid in advance. Or one thing that they do appreciate is they're paid on time. And so that's what I built, being there when, it's a two-way street, I book them and they say, listen, I've got my mega client and I really need to take off. Can you find someone else? I would say to them, now listen, you can only report in, not that you can't work when you're dead. Somebody called for you. But if there is a 1 or 2 off situation, then I can work with that. They appreciate that.
And you keep busy.
And you keep right.
Yeah.
And it's smooth. It was smooth. And so before I know it, I had just had guides calling and coming by to work with us, I had a lead guide at another lodge who, the day that he broke off from them, he called and said, listen, I'm available. I want to work with you. And that I just enhanced the list. So I really, like you said, and thank you, think that we're working with the best group of guides in the country. Their commitment to the fly fishing, the quality of their boats, their customer service skills, and, all of the, marine and science and captain, attributes that they should have, they have it. And our guests often comment on that.
Well, I want to hear about your first group, your first, let's say, month in business. So that the project's finally finished. You open your doors. The paint is just dried. The grounds are ready. You've got your guides lined up. And all of a sudden, guests start to arrive. Do you remember some of those first groups?
I do. They were significant because I was so worried they weren't coming. Even though, I asked the guides to help, it's like, where do you begin? When you knew and you just went in and built the lodge without even having a lot of planning because there was so much on with keeping a full-time job, building the lodge, et cetera, et cetera. But I just always had the faith that it would happen. So first it trickled in. In fact, when we opened was February 14, 2009, Valentine's evening. And that's how I pitched it off at a Valentine's getaway to a beautiful rustic lodge in Mangofi, Andros, and stay for the weekend and fish, snorkel, dive. And, we got a couple people, I think we got like 5, but that was pretty good, I thought. And then a few persons heard about us, 1 or 2 guide referral, and that worked out. But mostly there were slow months, and then it was scary because, of course, you have to keep up the bank monthly payment. And then I was fortunate to meet a wonderful father, son, and friend that came, and they fished there, and they said they've been fishing all around the world. It was one of the best experience ever. And we joined and partnered for them to build me a great website. And it was very nice. That certainly helped. And then they wanted to fish some more, and they said, how about not only the website, when we come down to build that, we stay there for like almost 3 months, him and his wife, who was very talented. And that, designing and branding that they helped me with, that helped. And then I met up with Yellow Dog, and which I am so pleased with today for this partnership. I want to thank you and all of your staff and Ian, Josh, for everything. And we got a couple customers. Do you know the first Yellow Dog customer on a windy, stormy day caught a 14-pounder bonefish? Now, what a way to begin. And that's how it's been ever since. A really good and profitable and great experience relationship. And then right after that, it was a few groups, and it started to build. But we had to just keep. I joined the Bahamas Out Island promotion board to help all the members in whatever sector. Which the biggest one is the fly fishing, whether it's wedding or diving. And they started sending me to the shows, and so I started pushing that. And that's how we started to come from creeping to crawling. It still took a long time, but now we're standing up and starting to skip and run, and so I'm so pleased about that.
15 years, 16 years later, you guys are crushing it. It's amazing to see.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to give you a couple of easy layups here, Cheryl, and I want you to tell us, you talked about the guides, the caliber of your guides, the experience of the guide team that you've been able to assemble. But tell us what, in your opinion, makes Swains Key Lodge such a unique offering and operation compared to other lodges throughout the Bahamas or even other destinations throughout the Caribbean. What kind of sets you guys apart from other operators?
Yeah, and I feel good about that. Many times tourism officials and others say you actually stand out. And you know what it is? The drive. The drive to, first it was just falling on top of that beautiful property. I can tell you, we're sitting on the flats, less than a mile from the third largest barrier reef. So with snorkeling with beautiful blue holes around us, but you actually can catch bonefish right in our yacht, barracudas, snappers, they're right there for the guests to enjoy.
You guys have a home flat, right?
Yes, a home flat, and it's also a nice, pretty beach as well for swimming and snorkeling. So that has really helped us quite a bit. Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys have that incredible beach. You got the home flat. You got kayaks, snorkeling right off the beach, and you've got this beautiful, quiet location where you're close to the community, but you still feel a little bit remote. You're very safe. And it's, again, that beautiful picturesque setting that is something special. I
think, you can feel it when the guests come and when they walk out to the restaurant and the beach where the rooms are near the water. Oh my goodness, this is awesome. There's really, really a beautiful sight. And to have, not only bonefish right there for them to come back from fishing in the day, to go out fishing or snorkeling or kayaking, whatever they want to do. I think also what has helped us to be where we are today, I must mention my fantastic staff. But all of them, everybody, they're so hungry for work to help their families, and that's how it's been. I have people, calling every day for a job. We are the place of choice for most people trying to find a job there. And I think, our reputation, I'm very firm, but I'm fair. I pay people well, and they all, I make sure the job is being done because the product is one. As I mentioned, you're only as good as your guides, great crafts. We have a nice property, and it's flourished. So our landscaping, everything is very pretty. I had some guests there this week and talked who had been there earlier and seen how it's grown. But comfortable rooms, but fantastic seafood. Most evenings, we get our guests clapping and commenting about how good the food is. And I have to compliment and praise my chef, Pam, and all her, supporters. This girl is from Mangrove Key. She has a family, and she works very hard. She really appreciates her job. And the one art she has is cooking seafood, especially fish. So, we have empty plates all the time. We do great hors d'oeuvres. And then when you sit on our porch and just look out that beautiful water, you just can't miss it. So the product, one of welcoming, from you step off the plane, the taxi Harry is waiting there to say, "Hello, John, how are you? I'm from Swains. Here we go." To the lodge. You have someone to welcome, check you in as quickly as we can, telling you exactly how it works from morning to evening. And then Nikki on the bar and Pam in the evening. And I always try to come in and say hello to every guest to find out who they are, what their needs are. And, and many times we invite the guides up to network with the guests, find out, flies or any questions they might have. Of course, you guys do a wonderful job with your customers where you give them that great package that tells them all about Andros and what to do and how to do it and what to expect at Swains.
Well, we talked about how the community kind of embraced you from the get-go, and you had that early guide support from the Mangrove K area with a lot of seasoned guides. But what about the reaction from other lodges and lodge owners on Andros? I guess as well as from some of the other Bahamian islands. How did that go initially as far as kind of the competitive landscape? Were they as warm and fuzzy and welcoming as the local community was, or has that been an interesting ride?
Not so Well, one other lodge thought that, we're just a small kid on the block. We're not going to amount to much. Then they're not concerned. Not so welcoming. And then the other thought we were, big competition because, they were a smaller rustic lodge. But there are different flavors for everyone. Around the country, I've had other lodge members who have welcomed me. As I mentioned to you, being a member of the Bahamas Island Promotion Board, I would just at all the meetings, we'd have to go to Nassau. I would interact with the other lodge owners and talk about what they do with their, Jeff Burr, he's in the northern Small Hope Bay. He was a tremendous support to me, even though he was in a core fly fishing lodge at the time. His more ecotourism, but mostly diving is their specialty. He would hold my hand with a whole lot of stuff. But I would say overall, it not too competitive. And furthermore, I wasn't concerned. I'm good. I said, and I wrote it, and it's on my wall, this is going to be one of the best if not the best fly fishing lodge in the Bahamas. And we're going to make it that. And we're going to continue to do that.
Well, lodges that have been founded, opened, owned, and operated by women are rare in the Bahamas. And things are not always easy when you're working in what has traditionally been a male-dominated industry in landscape. Talk to us about some of those challenges and what you've learned over the past 15 years of owning the lodge. I don't know if you're the only female-owned lodge on Andros or in the Bahamas. I'm sure there's probably some others, but there's not a lot.
No. And someone wrote an article about that. They interviewed a few of us. The most of them are members of the Bahamas Out Island Promotion Board. And I have to commend the lodge directors, Carrie Fountain, for the drive, the vision to promote fly fishing in the Bahamas and these lodges where women run the lodges. So, yes, I took it on even though it was a man's world. It started out with men, having a rustic getaway to fish and groups. But we just very good. I think women bring good administration to the table, where the lodge is, I would say, better organized. Even though we're not in the boat and not fishing as much as our male partners who might run their lodges. But if I could look at the 5 lodges where I personally know the owners now, females: Andros Island Bonefish Lodge, Ackland's Creekside Lodge, Swains Lodge, Stella Maris Lodge, the Smiths. That's growing. It hadn't been before, and it's being embraced. And I think women are doing a good job at running the lodge, while the males do a good job with the guiding and other, more strenuous activities involving that. So I'm proud to be one of those women, and to drive that and to encourage them. And even though I was one of the last to get involved in it, I'm being asked by them and embraced by them. With my experience with the Out Island Promotion Board, coming to my experience with Yellow Dog, and my experience with the fly fishing shows and being involved with that as well.
Well, I know a lot of our listeners are fascinated by this story, but the fact that there are so many anglers that listen to this podcast are like, okay, that's great. Now let's talk about the fishing. That's what people want to hear about. So let's dig into that a little bit. We all know that Andros is regularly referred to as the bonefish capital of the world. Why is that?
That's because, hands down, we have the largest bonefish fishery in the world. If you look at the 100,000 square miles from just under Miami to all the way to Inagua, we have the largest concentration of flats in the world. And in particular, Andros and Acklands and Abaco, I think they boast of, all these mangroves and inlets and waterways, the Middle Bight, the North Bight, the South Bight. And that's what the bonefish loves. And not only that, we boast of the largest, and I think we have the record for the largest bonefish in the world. They're just year-round, even though some months, the slower, really steamy summer months, they stay, deeper waters. The bonefish, you can find them. They're there for the avid, experienced angler or the novice. And, I've experienced that myself. Not only that, the feedback from anglers who come there year after year, new anglers, I've never seen so many bonefish. Oh, it's just so fantastic. And so that's why we're the bonefish capital of the world, because we have most of the bonefish and the largest bonefish as well. So you can find, average about 5 pounds, and you can get as I mentioned to you, one of my first customers at the lodge caught a 14-pounder. That's not every day, but it's average. You do get the 10s and the 11s, and so there's a lot of them. They're there.
Yeah.
It hands down. It's the bonefish capital of the world.
Well, Andros is also known as the Big Yard, and it is if you look at a map of the Bahamas, it's massive. It's holds the largest amount of fresh water of any of the Bahamian Islands, and the ecosystems, when you combine it with the expansive flats, I mean, it's just endless, the amount of fishing water that you have available to you on Andros.
Oh, yes. You could be out there in a day and you see no one else but you and your guide. Just beautiful with healthy mangroves. We due to the last storm in Abaco and Grand Bahama and other islands, we lost some of those mangroves, and so there's a mission to grow them. But yeah, lots of mangroves and the environment, the ecosystem, it's one of the best. It's authentic.
Well,
just can't find it.
You guys have obviously a lot of big bonefish. It's known for trophy bonefish, but you also have the numbers. And talk to us a little bit about why Andros is a destination that should be considered by those who are new to saltwater fishing or those who are new to bone fishing. How is it for a first-time saltwater trip?
I love when we have first timers, not only to bone fishing, but to the Bahamas, because I think that we do it right. You have the guides with the good attitude, customer service. And when I know about it, sometimes I ask if I know it's a novice, I try to put them with the right guides who I think are better at teaching. And they love that. They love the fact that they saw the customer with that thrill of catching it. And that's because, as I mentioned, with the large level of bone fishing in our waters, the novice it'll make it a little easier because there's so many bonefish to have an opportunity to cast at. Although it's still exciting for the experienced angler because that bonefish, that ghost they call him, he's such an exciting fish when the adventure and seeing it in such beautiful aquamarine water as the Bahamas has. So we're a great place, friendly people, good accommodation, good food, and most of the properties in Andros, they do their best. We appreciate our customers and our anglers, and we try to give them a good experience. And thank God our ecosystem and the experience out there, supports that.
Well, your guides, you've got a great staff, you've got a diverse staff, but you definitely have those guides that are great for beginners. So if you are a first-time saltwater angler, as you mentioned, you can pair them with the right guide, so that you've got someone who's excited about teaching and educating. And you also have the guides that are probably a little more suited towards your experienced anglers.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's nice to have that diversity.
And that's how I work it. And that's why I'm happy when I work with adventure houses, travel agents, and I certainly your marketing staff, they feed us that information. They'll say, Tom is new and, he's concerned about this or that, or this one is experienced, but if, we know just who to put them with. And the good thing is we boast of third, fourth generation guides and guides who care about it, and I'm actually, what we've started is a Bahamas Institute to train guides because we've lost a good, at least a dozen guides over the last 2-3 years. Some of them have passed away or other health condition after guiding for so long, but we still do have a rich, younger part of guides, that are working, and we're working on the next, succession plan with the Bahamas boast of the first institution that has a guiding program. You can get guiding certificate, and they have to go through all the requirements to be a guide. And then what we're looking for is apprenticeship programs, and I'm signed up for that because you have to look at what's going to happen in the future. We're getting a lot of competition in terms of 1 or 2 new lodges that are near us who are wanting our guides. And I mean, you can't blame them. You can't keep them occupied every day. So if another lodge is willing to hire them, you have to, you have to look at the future too and start to build more guides.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think one of the biggest challenges that we see in a lot of areas throughout the Bahamas is that lack of a younger generation of guides. That seems to be a challenge in a lot of places. As you mentioned, a lot of the long-time experienced guides are getting older. They're retiring. Sadly, some of them are passing on. We're seeing fewer young people get into the guide game. But what we've been noticing, say, over the last 10 years about the Mangrove Key area is that there is that presence of kind of the next generation, the up-and-coming guides. So it seems like you guys are focused on that. You're doing a good job with that. But it is good to hear that it's a concerted effort on the part of not just Andros, but in the Bahamas.
Yes. A ministry, what I'm happy about, I can tell you the Bahamas Out Island Promotion Board has been one of the leaders in really promoting the fly fishing industry, going to the shows, paying for small lodge owners to go to be exposed. And also we're involved in us putting together the tertiary programs at the BAMC Institution in North Andros, so that because we recognize the problem, and so we're working on that to make that happen. And you're right. Right now we have younger guides that had started out a few years ago, and now they're doing an excellent job. And I'm trying everything I can to incentivize them to get younger guides in. We're giving them scholarships and training so that this can move on. So because it's only so far that the industry could expand, but let's do it right. And there's still room for growth. And then, not only the safety and conservation aspects of it, we're really, really pushing that. In fact, I'll tell you, we've now gotten the attention of this new Deputy Prime Minister, where he gets it. And he's now actually commissioned a specific department to focus on that, to get all the information, all the guides in the country, to put them together. We're going to come up with ways when if a guide finishes the program and gets the education, the certification, now what does he do if he can't find a flats boat unless he's attached to a lodge? And so how are we going to do that and partner with them getting, their craft for those lodges where it's independent? I'll also share that they're looking at a fishing tournament in July through October, where they're going to have several islands, culminating in one island with the Grand Championship in October, to get the interest of younger men and more guides, because we have some islands where it's not working as it should. They're a little skinnier in terms of, the makeup of the islands, and the fishing isn't an Andros or an Acklands or an Abaco, but there's still good fishing. And so we want to create more Bahamian jobs that way and build the industry.
Well, I know that you have been instrumental in promoting the Out Islands through your involvement with the Out Island Promotional Board. One of the things that board has done over the last several years is promoting visits to the Bahamas through a flight credit program. That's been a successful program. That brings me to the next topic, which is a challenge we're currently dealing with on a number of the Out Islands. We're seeing fewer commercial flights these days. It's getting harder and more expensive for anglers to access a lot of these amazing destinations throughout the Bahamas. Talk to us about those challenges and what's kind of being done to address that situation and ensure that anglers can continue to get to these out island destinations, including Andros, in a kind of an inexpensive and easy way.
Exactly. Good question, because we are looking at this in a very serious way, especially South Andros, even more so than Mangrove Key and North, because with North Andros, we have a few flights coming in direct from Fort Lauderdale, and, we have the Makers Air and the Stecker Air. And so we've actually speaking with all those airlines as we speak. The director of the Out Island Promotion Board is working along with the Minister of Tourism to see what we can do with the airlines to put on more flights. So we recognize this, that, it's needed. We've had some of our travel agents complain about it before. And so the Bahamas is growing and we need a few more airlines involved. But of course, that's based on traffic, and that traffic is where we can get, airlines to increase the flights there. So I'd just like to say that it is in hand. We recognize that. And, even for us, we get our guests to go through, the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport, fly into South Andros, and you take the ferry over, or we come and pick you up. We arrange with a guide to get you, the guide who will be fishing you. We're going to do everything possible. But yes, that's before the table with in fact, the tourism representative in South Andros, she is putting a big paper together for the government, and they are working on 1 or 2 airlines to join the existing airlines to increase this, because we expect a vibrant, what we call the fishing season, like the spring, from now anywhere until, mid-June. And so hopefully we can get additional flights on there. I've spoken to Makers Air, and they are working on that, on doing additional flights for us, and possibly one direct into Mangrove Key, or one or more spoke with Sarah Swainson.
So if I'm coming to Swains and I'm going to book this season or next season, what are the best options for me to fly to Mangrove Key or to arrive in Mangrove Key? How do I get there?
I find that the easiest way is through Nassau, LPIA. Some people don't like to go through the big airports and et cetera, but it's easier to me. You get in before 1 o'clock, and then it's like a 20-minute hop over at 2-3 o'clock. Okay, and as you mentioned before, the complimentary offers in partnership with the Bahamas South Island Promotion Board and the Ministry of Tourism, where we have these booking periods. One is currently on until February 10th for travel all the way out to August of this year. And there's going to be another one that's going to come up, I think, early April, where we can offer you a free round-trip ticket if you stay 4 or more nights. 7 nights, you get 2 free tickets per room. So I find the easiest way is through Nassau, but we also have Makers Air that has the, virtually 3 or 4 flights per day now. Especially they enhanced that during the season, where we can get you over by a 15-minute ferry or by a private boat. There's a number of charters as well out of the Fort Lauderdale. That's easy too, to fly down to Fort Lauderdale and catch one of those charters over into Andros, into South Andros, North Andros. We've got American Airlines into Fresh Creek, and there is a big push to work on increasing the airlines at Andros. We're screaming for it, and the government is listening to us and speaking with our airline partners. So we hope, even if it's not accomplished for this season, that next season we will be in a better position.
Well, we have a lot of clients that are big fans of the private charters, too, from Lauderdale. Let's say you're coming over with a group of 4 or 6. It's pretty easy to arrange a private charter. It's a 20-minute flight. You go right to Mangrove Key, and you're there. So
that's right.
That's a good option.
I just arranged, if sometimes even if, coming from the West Coast or Midwest, if their flight is not in time to catch that regular flight from Nassau, we can arrange private charters that can get them there when everyone's arrived, and get them over to Mangrove Key. That's increasing with the number of private charters that we're working with. We can easily arrange that, and people even enjoy that more.
Well, I'll bring up another interesting topic, and this one has been all over social media lately. This is something that has reared its head in the past, but it seems like over the last few weeks it's kind of been brought up again, and that's the issue of do-it-yourself fishing, DIY fishing in the Bahamas. Now, we're a booking company. We don't do much when it comes to DIY fishing. We obviously love the lodge packages and sending people down to have everything included. But there are a lot of rumors swirling around this winter that the Bahamian government is on board with completely banning all do-it-yourself fishing throughout the country, which is a really big deal. And it's buzzing in angling circles. It's all over social media. We'll get political for just a minute and see if you can address this topic for us and kind of talk a little bit about that rumor and what's going on when it comes to the DIY fishing.
I knew you would ask me that question. Okay. But I can read right now from my phone here. Greg Bethel, who is one of the senior directors, he said he's not aware of any change, and he's not even heard the rumor. So we've investigated. When I heard it, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I called everyone. As far as I'm concerned, listen, our legislation calls for do it yourself in the Bahamas. You just have to get a fishing license. This is a rumor started through a conversation. It's a bit irresponsible about when it was done by the writers who put that out, because they did not check on that at all. So I hope there isn't any legal consequences for them. But the answer is no. The Bahamas is not, as far as I'm aware, and as far as I have investigated, banning do-it-yourself fly fishing in the Bahamas. It would be like not only shooting yourself in the foot, but in the head. No. I have enough, unless, as I said, I'm reading here right now a response from the director of the Marine, and that he's not heard of it, and he's not aware of any change. But I know from the Ministry of Tourism, they've sent something to the office to say, can you put out a statement? So we hope that statement could come out pretty soon to put everyone at rest.
Yeah, and again, it's it's not something that we're actively involved in, but it is a legitimate economic driver for the Bahamas, because even people that are going and kind of the DIY fishing, they're still booking hotel rooms, they're still booking transfers, they're eating out, they're buying groceries.
Oh, yes.
They're still pumping money into the Bahamian economy, no doubt.
We don't have enough guides to say do it yourself in the Bahamas and be the guide. It's a false rumor. As far as I'm aware, it's a false rumor that started from a misunderstanding and a conversation. And like I said, there's no grounds for anyone official would have told them that, because every official that I call who would know, and it's part of their portfolio, they don't even know anything about it. It's not everyone. If you look at the legislation, it's legal in the Bahamas. So it's a rumor. Nothing has been issued, and no one who would have been involved in issuing it knows anything about it. So I would say that's a mistake.
Well, thanks for addressing that. It's come up quite a bit lately. I want to shift back to questions specific to Swains Key and your operation. Let's give anglers some more information about your operation, Cheryl. Describe for us kind of the room options at the lodge. What's your total capacity, and what are the room situations like at Swains?
Okay, we have 12 units. One of them is a three bedroom apartment with 5 beds, so a total of 24 beds in total. And we can take on groups very comfortably. In fact, I think we do very well with groups, and most of our business from here until early summer is with groups of 12, groups of 18, 20. We got a couple of them, and so we feel so excited, so proud. One of them is a fishing tournament to assist in Mangrove Key with a community park where the children don't even have anything on. And thanks to the Yellow Dog Community Conservation Fund that's behind that and helping us with that. But we boast of 24 beds, 12 units, a great restaurant, and customers are very comfortable there, very spaced out. Our property, beautiful beach, as I mentioned, and the environment where they can do other things like kayaking and swimming, and we can set them up with even diving, because often we have an angler with a non-angler who wants to dive, or they want to go bird watching. We now, as a part of that institution in North Andros, the Bahamas Institution, we've already produced about 10 bird watchers who are also tour guides. So we want to have, because Andros boasts of more than 200 and some birds. 5 of them indigenous to Andros for the bird watching. But there's the tours with the Blue Hole and the Bat Cave, but mostly guiding them to the west side. Oh my goodness, you're in a wonderland. We can see turtles and flamingos and so many species of birds and fish. Tarpon holes, more bonefish because they're everywhere. So there's something for the non-angler to do. There's something for those who don't want anything to do, especially if they're accompanying, their husband. They just want to, relax in our lounge chair and enjoy a lemonade. But even my cook, she does, teaching how to crack the conch and, sometimes how she cooked the conch. And some women want to know how to make the peas and rice. So we have that, we get a bag of crabs and let them out. So there's games and things to do. When people leave, they really feel satisfied. Not only that, but relaxed, they really do.
How about your season of operation? We all know that the Bahamas is busiest during the colder winter months in the U.S., kind of that January through late spring time frame when people want to head somewhere warmer than it is at home. But what's your season of operation? Are you guys year round?
No, August and September, we like to take a break because running a bonefish lodge and what it takes, you need to give a staff, well, they don't want a break really, but I know for their health. And typically people, because those are the months when the Bahamas is known for their storms and the U.S. is beautiful and people are there. So we start, say, from 1st October until July, as far as people want to go to July. Most of the crowd comes in anywhere from February to end of May. But we really fishing in the Bahamas in October to December, January, where it's the occupancies are lower, is a great time to fish. It's cool, less bugs. The fishing is fresh from the break in August and September. The flats are good, and typically the weather is good. So people don't come, and of course we understand you get Thanksgiving and you get Christmas, and that impacts some of the travel. But, anglers wanting to get away with family, without family, just core anglers. I find that from October to January are really good months where they're missing out on fishing, simply because people typically go from February to May. So it's a good time to come as well.
What about the summer months? I know you guys kind of go through the end of July, but is it a decent time to be on Andros as, you kind of move into those summer months and things warm up a little bit?
Yes, for those who want to change. And it's a beautiful time. I mean, of course, our waters are beautiful. You can come. It's not as crowded. What we do is we take people out earlier in the morning before it gets so hot in the afternoon when the Bonefish Society's had enough for the day or the tarpon or permit, and they go, a bit deeper to cool off. So those months are really good for family, too, for snorkeling and kayaking and touring and hiking and biking, and relaxing. So they're just as good. And, we invite people to come those months as well. I mean, we haven't had a hurricane since that giant one. And, and the good thing about it, we respect that there is a storm and there's no penalty. You just rebook people for when it's convenient for them if they plan it during those months where there is a possibility. But a
you
good
guys are
time
flexible.
to come. Yeah, we're very flexible. You want the customer to come back. It's not about getting their money. It's about, yes, making funds on it, but also about them enjoying it. You see, what is about our lodge, even my staff, you can see it. They put their whole self in it in terms of being friendly and accommodating. The minute if something is wrong in the restaurant, someone will fly to my office or whatever and say, here's this thing, this gentleman needs this or needs that. I mean, we go to the trouble of going to Nassau or sending for it to come on the plane if they need something. So we go the extra mile, and I think that's one of the reasons why our product is good. It's because it's genuine, friendly, accommodating, along with, good guiding and good fishing. So that's what we bring to the table. And where some lodges might, who might perhaps not be doing as well, I think they need to put a little bit more into, the client relationship and the drive, because that's what's winning for us.
Well, you guys are doing it well. You brought up a couple minutes ago the legendary west side of Andros. And in angling circles, I mean, this is hallowed ground, right?
Yes.
The west side is absolutely legendary. If guests are fishing out of Swains, can they access the west side where your guides take them over there?
They certainly will. Usually the guides are looking for an extra tip on top of that, especially if that's where they say you could really find the big bones back there in that maze. But it's so beautiful. And I think of all of Andros, you can get there faster than any other area. If you look at the way Andros is formed, there's a larger, wider top of Andros, like 55 miles. And then there's the north and middle bight. It's like it slims in like a female, the tiny waist, and so it's shorter. When you jump in a boat in the middle bight or the south bight guide boat, it's less time. Whereas on the other areas, It takes them a bit longer to get to the west side, but our guides are willing to do that. They like to boast of that, and it also attracts an extra tip, which they inform the customer ahead of time. Listen, it's more fuel, it's more gas. So many of them actually do it without charging extra, but some do. So it's just that they be aware of it. They find that that's part of what they're doing. You're taking you out for the day, and so they would do it without asking for a tip. But it's definitely something that an angler visiting Swains and Mangrove Key should do in their during the fishing time there. And I would recommend that if it's I also recommend, and it's of course based on the customer's pocket, that you do at least 3 to 4 days, 1 or 2 days. One day might be stormy or whatever, but if you book 4 to 6 days, that's much better. That way, even too, when you're first getting into it, especially if you're a novice, the first day or two you're training, and the other days you can do and really experience and do a better job with that, as well as any weather impact. You most likely would have a couple days.
Yeah,
that's better than the others.
That's so important in any saltwater destination.
Oh,
if you only book 1 or 2 days on a quick weekend trip, you're very much at the mercy of the conditions and the weather. Whereas if you're there for a solid week, chances are good you're going to have some good days and find some good conditions.
Exactly.
Really, really important. How about Swains as an option if I'm a single angler? If I'm somebody who travels by myself, I want to fish by myself, you guys accommodate that?
Oh, yes. Costs a little bit more with you in the boat. But we've been having a lot of those recently. In fact, when I left the lodge, I left two. One gentleman, he hadn't fished, he said, almost 20 years. And he had such a wonderful time. It was so good to sit down with him to see that. So yes, with that single angler, whether he's a novice or experienced, we set him with that guide based on what we know about them. And most of the guides can do it. And they bond with, at the end of the day, they bond. All you can hear is, I want to fix next year with Mark. I want to fix the next year with Marvin or wherever. So that's the thing I find with the guides. I get a little jealous sometimes, when they when they come back and they're just, all about this guy. But that's the good thing, and so lots of great relationships. So we embrace the novice, because we think our guides do it right in training. And we do it right in the experience, knowing they're a loner. And when they come in the restaurant, right away I'll say, oh, Tom, come over here. Let me introduce you to Bill. And then, they're going off talking and they're sitting together. And he's not lonely, even though he might want his own boat for whatever reason, Some people say sometimes a single angler because they have a lot of friends. But many times there's other things that, they just want that guide to concentrate on them.
And they want all the shots.
And want all the shots and opportunities. So no, we have been doing very well with that, and it's been you can see by the repeat customer that single angler becomes.
Well, what about gear and equipment? Do you guys have loaner or demo equipment on site at the lodge, Cheryl? Or should anglers always plan on bringing everything that they need, all their equipment, tackle and flies? How does that work, say, if someone checks their rods and reels and their gear and it gets delayed for a day or two? Can you help them out with that?
Oh, yes. We certainly keep on stock loaner rods. And really good ones, because we get them from our friend Neville at Thomas & Thomas. He helps us out with that, and they're really great rods. And we try to stock most of the basics for if an angler, if they need line, packing, tippet, leader, rods, whatever they may need, gloves, hat, anything. Any of the gear, and we're loaded with flies, all the flies that are best for that edge with your cloud, your gotchas, your clousers, your spawning shrimp. We have all those in stock, because we have a great program that if you buy the flies from us, we're donating those funds to the high school project that we had. They didn't even have a proper library, and so the library is almost finished. We got some computers and whatnot, and so we're really happy about that program to help the local. So they don't have to worry about flies. We certainly have that, and we would have just about everything that they would want should they not, have all of their gear. Although we do recommend, because the Bahamas doesn't have, outfitter stores, so that's especially in a rustic place like Mangrove Creek. we recommend that they get the basics from their local outfitter, or if they need information, we try to do a list of here's the things you should have, okay? And, if you don't have something, just let us know. We'll get it for you. We have it in stock.
Well, you brought up supporting the local schools, and I definitely want to thank you for being such a great partner with the Yellow Dog Community and Conservation Foundation over the years. You have been integral in putting together a number of super successful partnership projects in the Bahamas, including the Mangrove Key Sports Park facility, which you just mentioned. Talk to us a little bit about that project and your ongoing involvement with both the Yellow Dog Foundation and, projects throughout your local community.
Yes, when you started that program, which I think is a great one to give back in the destination, and we needed it. And right away I got it. And, even though it was hitting my pocket, the first concept was, $50 out of every trade over a certain amount. And then now it's joining with a capital amount. But I think it's a fantastic program. And coming from the city and living there, and when I came out of the gate sometimes to help out, in the early days, I'd been working more, scrubbing floors, driving, whatever I have to do. I would have to pass the high school. And I saw the children running on the street with cones in the road. I'm like, hello, what's going on here? And when they say, well, they're having their track practice, even though we don't have a lot of traffic because it's rustic, but I'm like, running on the asphalt surface and running in this, oh, come on. No, we got to do something about that. And that's why I said it got to be something. And having such a great relationship with Yellow Dog, I asked Ian, isn't there something much, more we can do, other than, we sell the flies to make money for that. And, we came together and said, why not a tournament? And that's what we've been working on. We're having the third Big Yard Classic tournament on February 18th. And we're hoping that could be, for more years to come. You should see the tremendous progress we've made. The government advanced us some crown land, and we've got a basketball court. And it was so good to see the children in the afternoon running there, rather than staying on their phones, texting, they can play basketball. And there's also, we have just completed some restrooms, or we're completing them now. But, they were usable at the last function. And then we're doing a kiddie corner. The land has been so great. Bleachers, great progress.
And a full track facility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The main thing, even though I was joining forces with some of the locals, and they had their little agenda, so I'm going along with them. They wanted the basketball and the kids come, but the main thing is the track. So we have started on, making, cutting out the land, and, we're hoping this tournament will even bring more funds, and we're thinking out of the box for other things to do. We've got some local residents and winter residents who are helping out. We had a guy who just volunteered to, knowing that we're having the functions coming up soon, to bulldoze some areas and flatten it. And a lot of it is complimentary, and we really appreciate that, to get the children. I can tell you a quick story about my cook. Do you know, if you saw the basketball court, that a small one that they have, that they were practicing on with the net hanging off, practically gone, and this kid practice, and then some scouts saw him at an event in Nassau. He's now in the NBA. From Andros. And so we're so proud of him. What I'm saying, and this is one of the reasons I drive with this program, because I believe we've got a lot of stars, a lot of talented children who can, do the same thing in other areas, track, and in addition to basketball and other areas. It's going to be a community park where we can have other events to bring the community together. Right now, there's nothing of that level except for an annual event that they have where, it's more partying and whatever. And so that's fine too, but we want to grow, next generation in a positive way, and that's what it's doing. So I really appreciate the Yellow Dog Community Conservation Fund. That's a great thing. You guys really need a hand clap for that. Thank you.
Well, we've been privileged to be a part of it, and people can learn more or donate to the project at ydccf.org. There's lots of good information on the website, all kinds of photos of the park project and the ongoing projects that are being supported. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Thanks for sharing your story. It's been a great conversation, and I've loved to hear about kind of your journey and how you came to where you are today at Swains Key.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a proud one. I'm mostly proud of it. You know, it doesn't matter, any profits or what it's been. It's that a Bahamian girl from a kid decided she wanted to have a little hotel. And even though it turned out to be a fishing lodge that women normally involved in, it's been successful. And I like what it does to how our guests appreciate it and the partnership we have made. And thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, an amazing story. And that is it for this episode of Waypoints. To learn more about booking a trip to Swains Key, feel free to reach out to Yellow Dog Fly Fishing, where our Bahamas program director can take great care of you. Be sure to visit yellowdogflyfishing.com to plan and research trips, source gear, equipment, and flies for your next destination, learn about upcoming podcast episodes, and stay up to date and dialed in on the latest news in fly fishing, travel, and adventure. Join us for our next episode, and remember, while we may be living in unusual times, keep fishing and keep traveling, because when it's all said and done, no one ever regretted a life of adventure.
This has been another episode of Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing, travel, and adventure angling. Waypoints is produced by Brian Gregson, with music provided by the Steep Canyon Rangers. Visit yellowdogflyfishing.com for more destination profiles, travel news, and expert advice, and be sure to join us for our next episode.